I am going to make a walkthrough of what a day in the life of a city or AmeriCorps member looks like, both in school as well as in the office for learning and development days. So okay, so first thing, I served at Compass Academy, which is a middle school here in Denver, serving 6th through 8th graders, and just kind of going through like a typical rundown of a day. So we meet at the school and do a first circle at 7 a.m. Now, Compass Academy was located inside of Abraham Lincoln High School, which is another site that City or Denver served at. So the two teams would come together for a first circle at 7. And then once first circle wrapped up, we would head up to our little office area or our desk for some productivity time. This could be like looking at the schedule or like the syllabus for what the teacher has, your partner teacher shared with you. I know my partner teacher sent me something on a Sunday for that whole week. So kind of preparing like for what that lesson's going to be and kind of making your own notes so that it's easier for you. And then after that time, Compass usually heads down around 7:50 to start with morning greeting. The students typically come between 7:50 and till they have to go to the classrooms at 8:20. So we're there just kind of opening the doors, greeting them, good morning. We eventually had 2 people by the door, and then one would move kind of in the cafeteria where all the kids gathered, just kind of walk around, hear kind of what's going on with them, and keep like kind of personal time with them, like get to know them, talk to them on just like a personal level to build that relationship. And then we will stay down there 30 minutes after the kids have gone up, just for any late kids that come in. We'll just send them on up just because the doors are locked, and we stay there to get them in. And then after morning greeting is done, we will head back to our desks. And I use this time as like focusless time. So what I would do is I would kind of put in how much time I'd gotten with the kids the day before that morning. So if I'm there on a Tuesday, I would put in what I did on Monday, and I would use that kind of time to fill it in, whether that be like your SEL minutes or academic minutes. That's how I would use that time. And then, so the way Compass is it's divided into 6 blocks, and how many blocks you have is just dependent on what blocks your partner teacher has. So there are 3 in the morning. It goes block 1, block 2, block 3. So that's why I put class time from 9:15 to 11:45. That is where the first 3 blocks are. I personally had all 3 blocks in a row with my partner teacher. So I was in class from 9:15, and the class goes till 12:15. But city year lunch is from 11:45 to about 12:15, 12:20. So I would leave my 3rd block a little early to go have our 30-minute break for lunch, whether you want to go for a walk, whatever that looks like for you. And then after city year lunch, Compass would go outside for about 35 minutes for lunch support. And this looked like being outside on the blacktop with the students, actively playing games with them if you'd like, or just kind of wandering, making sure they stay on campus. During the winter times, city year was not responsible for like supervising the lunches if it was indoor, like if it was too cold, too rainy, too snowy kind of thing, we would stay inside. So that was just an additional like extended lunch for city year at Compass, which was kind of nice in the winter sometimes. And as well, that lunch support could also look like if one of your focus list students has like a meeting with like a teacher and their parents, you are welcome to sit on that if you were like invited or asked to come in to kind of discuss how that looks. So that's kind of time for them as well. Or even if a student asks for support in like missing work they need to complete or any activities they need to do, you are welcome to work with a focus list student during that time, as long as you give like warning that you won't be available for lunch support. And then after lunch support are our remaining 3 blocks. So I know for me, it looked like I had 4th and 5th block with students. So I was in the classroom. And then my partner's teacher did not teach a 6th block any day. So I had off, and that was just kind of like time to unwind, kind of take myself, do some like productivity kind of things, anything I could get done or work ahead on. I mean, throughout like the school year, you are doing like events and planning things too. So like kind of getting ahead on that is great to use that block for. And then once dismissal happens at 3:55, which is Monday for Compass Academy, that looked like I'll get to that in the end. But yeah, so you have about an hour of ELT. So I put productivity time or ELT because in the cases of Compass, there were some days students did not come. So it was just kind of left to the city or members to have our own time, do whatever we want. But if there were students, ELT kind of looks like it's called extended learning time. So this can look like tutoring. And I know tutoring definitely occurs a lot more in high schools. I know with Compass Academy, they weren't necessarily given homework, but they could work on missing assignments they had. So for Compass, it looked a little different. It wasn't necessarily tutoring. We just kind of would like think of activities to do with them during that time. So yeah, it was all just dependent on how many kids showed up. With Compass, it kind of varied. I'd say between like 3 to 7 students would show up. Nothing like too crazy. I know that can look different from each school. I know some of the core members I worked with in the elementary school had tons of kids that would stay after school, maybe because that fits in with like their parents' schedule and like having to pick them up later. And then high school, a lot more tutoring sessions and more bodies show up. So then after you were done with ELT, I know with Compass, we would walk down with the students and make sure they got out of the building and headed home safely before we would go meet our team for final circle at 4:45. And again, final circle and first circle are just kind of your like greetings, like, how was your day? Did anything happen? What are some joys and appreciation of the day? And just a time to like kind of share and reflect on how your day went or the week has been. But yeah, so this looks like the schedule every day for Compass on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday. Compass is a little different. We end early on Thursdays, so it was just a very shortened schedule, shorter classes, no lunch because the kids are only there from about 8:20 to I believe they get out at 12:57. So that's a shorter day. We offer them lunch as they're heading home for the day, but we don't like take time for like a recess on Thursdays. And then Thursdays, so once the students leave around 1-ish, all the grade levels will meet and you join the respective grade level that you work with for a grade level meeting. I know for mine, I was in ELD. I worked in an ELD classroom, so I worked with 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, but I chose to jump in on the 7th grade level meeting because that is the homeroom that my partner teacher was. He was a 7th grade homeroom, so he sat in with the 7th graders. However, two members of AmeriCorps members that I worked with, they were only 6th grade and only 8th grade, so they joined those grade level meetings. So that's kind of what like a week looks like. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday are the same. Thursdays are a little different, but you have that extra time in the afternoon with your grades. So yeah, that's kind of like what a day in the life looks like. Kind of going more in depth in the classroom. What we would do is, for me, ELD was, it looks a lot different than like doing a math or a science class. We did a lot of reading. So what I would do is we would start off the class reading as a whole class with the partner teacher, and then he would have them break off for the second half of class and read on their own or in small groups. And at that point, I would take my focus list small groups and work in the back and kind of do like popcorn reading for them, kind of hear how their pronunciation's going, grammar, their how fluid they can speak and read and all that. Some days when we would do like packets, again, I would just take a small group. What I learned that worked best for me was not taking so many at a time. So I know in the beginning when I was first getting situated, I would try to take like 6 to 7 students back there with me that I had on my focus list in the class, but it just got a little crazy. So I would just split up my time throughout the week and just do like 2 to 3 students at a time. It kind of kept their focus more on me instead of like messing around, playing with each other. But yeah, or it can also just look like, I mean, if they're doing individual work, just going around to each student being like, hey, anything I can help you with? How's this going? And just constantly walking around offering support. And I also found that I also offered help to all the students in the classroom. It wasn't necessarily my focus, but they saw that like some kids were doing better talking to me, so they would ask for help and I would obviously jump in and do that. So yeah, that's kind of what a day looks like in a school. Obviously, it differs for each grade level, but I was in a middle school. And yeah, so we also have office days. So this could be like if the school you serve at doesn't have school one day, or we just do it already twice a month, just meeting in the office, but sometimes more or less depending on the school schedule. Like I know we're in the office during spring breaks when the students are not in school. But a typical day at an L&D day is from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. And the GP is just what we call the office in Denver. Yeah, so it would end at 4 p.m. There were some activities that would extend until 5 p.m. It was more so not mandatory, but like if you were joining along, and one thing we did was like Operation Hope, kind of learning how to like manage that and all money. So typically 8 to 4, but it could go till 5 p.m. So some things we did, I was a mid-year, so I didn't necessarily work through tier 1 skills like as a group. I joined in once we transitioned into tier 2. We would kind of look over stats and where focus list students stand. I know some days we'd come in and they'd have a list of like, okay, here's where your student has either increased or decreased in grade, from quarter 2 to quarter 3 or 1 to 2, kind of however, wherever point you are in the school year. And just kind of, we did a lot of like playthroughs and act throughs, like, okay, how would you approach this topic and like use your tier 2 skills? So like for me, an example would be like, they taught me how to like in ELD, like reading a little paragraph and pointing out where the like pronouns, nouns, verbs, all those are. So I would sit with another AmeriCorps member in the office and kind of example how I would do it in a classroom, which was really nice to have and to get feedback on, because obviously with the students, it's just they're answering questions. They're not giving you feedback on how you're kind of doing it. City Year offers so many interview opportunities. I know one of our L&D days was strictly centered on interviewing and practicing for jobs in the real world. So I know we did like 18-minute interviews. It was kind of like a speed interview. You were in a room with someone, some were in person, some were over Zoom, if depending on if that individual could make it to the office or not. And you would just do a practice interview and they would give you feedback. And that was probably one of the greatest, I think, things that we had done at one of our L&D days, just because interviews can be scary and it's just kind of nice to be able to go through like a trial interview. And then after you did the 18-minute like speed interviews, we just had the opportunity to walk around and speak to anyone in the office. If there was someone on your particular career path that was there and you wanted to talk, it was a great opportunity to do that, network, and kind of expand that network. We heard from a lot of previous AmeriCorps members. I know one of our days we had 3 individuals come in working at 3 different companies, and they just kind of talked about, they didn't necessarily do city year, but they had served with AmeriCorps in the past, and kind of like what their trajectory looked like, how they got into this job and how it started. And that was another great opportunity for city year. We have plenty of service opportunities. So I know we did like a clean out of a building. We just went for the day and kind of organized and cleaned. And I know that the company was very appreciative of it. We did a lot of garden work specifically for Cesar Chavez Day of Service. We went in different gardens around the city of Denver. So it wasn't like the whole core at one. We were all kind of split up depending on what group you were put in. And that was an amazing day learning about Cesar Chavez and all of his work. And so, yeah, just kind of activities like that. We did the Martin Luther King parade. It was like a march through the city of Denver. And then after, we did like a park cleanup, and that was another really good opportunity. Near the second semester, we did a bunch of things for AmeriCorps Appreciation Week, or month, I should say. But there was one week when we were in the office a lot, and it was great to just kind of like recognize like, oh, we're doing like a lot, like, and kind of getting that recognition and that appreciation is very amazing. And city year, personally, my last year in Denver was amazing. They did great. They really made us truly feel like appreciated. We do a lot of activities that are planned by the Corps. So one week in particular is our spring break week. So again, like I said, this is when the students are gone for a week. We were in the office for about 3 days of the week, and it was a lot of Corps planned activities. We did like a mental health day in the park, which was an amazing day for the Corps. And also during L&Ds, our service year leaders, they are like the second years and they can be like a service leader. So I had one, Betsy, she was great. She was my service leader in my school. So they kind of they have a little bit more responsibility in terms of like being at the office some days more. And a lot of our L&D days were structured through them, because it's kind of nice to have that, because they know what's going on in the school. So planning things to learn about and like being able to relate it to what we're doing in school is great as well. So yeah, that's kind of just like what service looks like. But yeah, so thank you for listening, and have a good one.